Hey, what's up everyone? Jonathan Thames of Rosie and Ernie Productions here, giving you my thoughts on the brand new Zack Snyder movie, Army of the Dead, which was released in theaters on Friday, May 14th, and is now streaming on Netflix as of May 21st. I caught this past Friday for its Netflix premiere date, and I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely not my favorite Zack Snyder movie, or even my favorite zombie movie, but I thought it was overall a pretty entertaining watch. The film basically combines a relatively standard heist plot with what I thought was a pretty intriguing zombie plot. Particularly, I thought that the subplot surrounding the king and queen of the zombie army was pretty interesting and effectively told, especially considering it had no dialogue to accompany it. It was strictly told through Zack's visual storytelling, which is where most people agree he really shines through. I really did like the way that the movie opened up and set up the explanation for the zombie premise. I did find it interesting that in this movie, versus a good bit of other zombie apocalypse movies, it's contained within a city, in this case Vegas, and not spread across the country or the world, but they give that what I think is a serviceable explanation. I also like how they set up the differences in the types of zombies and how those bitten by the original zombies were differently affected than those bitten by secondhand zombies, and the way that the hierarchy functioned within its own developed societal standards and organization. The heist subplot was pretty standard and featured most of the typical trope characters and interactions, though I do think that those cliches were definitely self-aware and intentional, and were for the most part, I think, well executed. The film stars Dave Bautista, whose character is hired by a mysterious millionaire to round up and head a team to retrieve a massive payload hidden within the confines of Vegas before the government bombs the city to eliminate the zombie population. Whereas the setup and characters are all pretty standard and cliche, as I said before, I do feel like it was pretty decently executed and delivered what was expected out of fun, typical heist movies and zombie movies. It does try to take itself seriously, but I didn't feel like it tried to take itself too seriously or pass itself off as some sort of brilliant work of dramatic art in the zombie genre, and felt like the balance of seriousness and silliness felt appropriate for the most part in this movie, and it kept it fun and engaging for the majority of its runtime. I thought that Dave Bautista put on a really great performance in this movie. His delivery, of course, on the fun action was spot on, no surprise, but what I was really impressed by was his range when it came to delivering the sincere elements of the character that really had some emotional weight behind them. I thought we really got some insight into what a talented actor he can be, and the rest of the cast really did a good job too, playing all of their characters, despite most of them being pretty standard from a written standpoint. There really weren't any performances that stood out to me as being cringy or bad. Additionally, I think the visuals overall are pretty great in this movie. There are a good amount of practical effects, which I really, really like, and of course there is some CGI, but I think all of that looks pretty decent too. I especially liked the makeup for the King and the Queen zombies. I have seen some other reviewers point out a few things about the movie that don't 100% add up or make sense, and I definitely won't argue that these things aren't present, but for movies like these, where belief is already heavily suspended due to premise, I'm more often than not willing to let certain fantastic elements that may usually be considered unbelievable slide, as long as I'm engaged and entertained by the story being told. I mean, does it make sense that someone walks away from helicopter crash without a scratch? No, of course not. But the fact that it happens in this kind of movie is genuinely not going to offend me. Of course it's not realistic, but in my mind, that's kind of the point of these kind of movies. I will say that I feel like it could have been trimmed down a little. It did feel like 2.5 hours was just a smidge too long. There are a few scenes that I feel like went on too long or that didn't really help to add anything to the story. I'd say the film could have easily been trimmed to a 2-hour runtime and still served its story effectively. I do think it needs to be mentioned that Zack acted as his own director of photography with this film, so all of the cinematography in the movie was his. And for the most part, I think he did a really great job with it, again delivering some very artistic and eye-catching shots. I've always been a fan of his eye for dramatic and artful imagery, and his talent for that really shines through in this film well, in my opinion. Overall, I give the movie a rating of 7 out of 10, and had a really good time with it. I do recommend it to people who are into action horror, and more specifically into the zombie film genre, as I feel like the majority of people into those kind of movies will probably walk away from this movie feeling pretty entertained for the most part. However, if you're more of a casual moviegoer and not really into the genre and are looking to see a really well-crafted drama centering around a zombie storyline, then I'd suggest that this movie isn't likely for you. But if you've seen it or decide to go check it out, it is streaming now on Netflix and also playing in theaters, so go give it a watch and come back and let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I want to thank everybody for watching today's review. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you all in the next video.